Thanks for staying with us. It's time to go to the papers now and look at what the headlines are. We're being joined by Mr. Nick Agule, a public affairs analyst. Good morning and welcome to the program, sir.
Good morning, Nyamgul, and good morning to our viewers globally.
Okay, today we are going to start with the Tribune newspaper. It begins with a political one. It leads with a political headline. PDP chair, Pro-Damagun forces plan takeover of BOT. Other stakeholders mount pressure on David Mark to take over in February. 67 BOT members face uncertainty over plot. Wabara under pressure over stance on tenure of acting chairman, and states have power to nominate tenured BOT members, according to National Publicity Secretary. All this is the fact that there is problem in the PDP, which is supposed to be like a formidable force when it comes to opposition in Nigeria, and gives Nigerians worry that there's problem in the PDP household. Mr. Agule.
Yes, thank you very much. I think the PDP house is in disarray, and what is happening is a portrayal of what is happening within that house. And we know, we have spoken about this severally. It is to some people's interest for the opposition parties in Nigeria, specifically the PDP and the Labour Party, and perhaps even Kwankwaso's NNPC, to be in disarray, because the more the opposition parties cannot get their acts together, the better for the ruling party. And the PDP have allowed themselves to get into this crisis. I think they exactly know what to do to get out of the crisis, and they should just get on with doing it. As a party, they have organs of the party. The party has a constitution, and the party has rules. And just like in Nigeria, where we have an array of laws, they don't enforce them. That is why Nigeria is where it is. And it is the same reason that PDP is where it is, because they are not implementing their constitution. They are not enforcing their laws. So the earlier they do that, the better for them. So for now, they are not doing it. So that is why I say they have themselves to blame.
Okay. Well, let's move from there. I hope that PDP will get their acts right. I hope also the judiciary will be doing their best to make sure that whatever is enshrined in the Constitution is standing and it's being held. And people who fault any provision of the Constitution are being held to account. You see, like opposition party is being lured into leaving camp and going to other parties that are stronger, especially the ruling party. And I would think that maybe it's because if you do that, there's no consequence that will come to you. You bring a flimsy excuse and say, okay, this and that is happening, and then you go ahead and continue to be who you are. No consequences whatsoever, even though the Constitution states clearly that if you jump ship, you are going to lose your position. Nothing happens. So you can kill opposition by just showing them some apples to come take a bite. And so I think there are a lot of other factors that will have to be looked into for opposition to survive in Nigeria. Except we are pointing fingers at the ruling party, that they are making the judiciary and every other organ of government to just be an extension of the executive in such a way that they can have their way in anything that they do. Okay, so another headline here, a small one, bottom in the Tribune, the Nigerian Tribune, is tax reform bills have no provision for consultants on tax collection. That's according to Oyedele. I'm sure this is as some people were were expressing concern that it's going to be the Lagos issue of Alpha, Beta, and all that. So he's trying to explain now. But if this is the case, what do you think? Is it a better way for us to collect our tax, or we need consultants to be in the fray?
I think the chairman of the Presidential Task Force on Fiscal Reforms is not being honest with his bills, that there is no provision for the use of tax consultants to collect taxes is not to mean there is also a ban on the use of tax consultants in the bills that he has proposed. So long as there is no ban, explicit ban in the bills that tax consultants will not be used, then it means they can be used. So I don't think he should be making statements like that just because he wants to get the buy-in for his bills that are before the National Assembly. What we need to do in Nigeria is not about whether consultants will be used or not. It is about the transparency of the process. Even if you are going to use consultants and you recruit them on a credible and transparent platform, where Nigerians will know that the people who have been so recruited are competent to perform the duties of collecting taxes on behalf of the tax collecting agencies in Nigeria. And not only that, that the money so collected is duly accounted for. And that money goes into the coffers of government. And of course, when money is going to the coffers of government, tax revenue goes to the coffers of government officials have to apply those tax revenues that have so been accrued to the good of Nigerians. And this process that I have just described now is broken at different levels. So I mean, like for instance, in the UK, if you owe government money, like you owe government taxes and all of that, it's not government officials that are going to come after you. Immediately, they are going to send your data to what do you call them? Debt collectors. There are debt collecting agencies in the UK who are specialized in the process of drawing debt from people's hands. They are the ones that will come after you. So that is the kind of thing that can happen here, that FIRS and State Board of Internal Revenue may necessarily not get themselves bogged down with chasing people to pay taxes up and down. They can hand those kind of duties, outsource it to consultants. But that process has to be fair, transparent, and credible, so that it's the right people who are in those jobs. That's the kind of thing we should be talking about, and not whether we are going to allow tax consultants or not.
Okay, on The Guardian, following up on tax, there are two headlines here. The leading headline is States eye 180% hike in VAT earnings amid push for fiscal federalism. And then measure tax bills impacts on human rights, SERAP tells National Assembly. We have those two. The SERAP has concerns that some provisions of the tax bills may infringe on the rights of the people, and that they should look into it. And also states are hoping to get 180% hike in VAT. As we're talking about federalism now, the states should be earning as much as they are producing or they are generating from their states. What's your take?
Also, if I understand the explanations being put forward by the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Reforms, VAT increase is on luxury goods, whereas VAT on essential goods like food and pharmaceuticals and so is completely been taken off. For me, that is okay. And that is what happens elsewhere as well. In those nations where our young people are now being attracted to Jackpot, it is the rich who pay taxes that government then uses the revenue to upgrade the lives of the less privileged people. So if that is the kind of system that we're bringing in Nigeria, I don't have a problem with that. If you have money and you import a private jet, I will not even mind if you pay VAT of 20% on that private jet, and the government uses that revenue to provide education, healthcare, and infrastructure that will be beneficial to all. You know, so that system for me is a good one. Let the rich pay their fair share of taxes, because at the end of the day, they made their riches from the people anyway. Like if you are a banker and you are flying in a private jet, it is the market women and all the other people who are banking with you that have made you make that money. So you need to return part of that money in taxation to the welfare of these people. It's a normal system for taxation globally, where the rich people pay as high taxes. Like in the UK, personal income tax for the rich is, I think, is 45% or 50% of the monies you make. You hand it to government so that they will look after society. And now, fiscal federalism that you talked about is also a good thing. You know, let's this feeding bottle federalism that we are practicing in Nigeria stop. My only concern is that for you to do the federalism properly, you need to have the data. Let every state, have data generated for consumption activities in their states. And that is because companies that are operating in the states in Nigeria, they have their head offices in Lagos, must change their systems, must change their operating procedures such that they can account for VAT generated in each state and no longer just be filing that in Lagos, which goes for Lagos alone. Once they're able to handle that bit of it, please let us go ahead with this so that states that have been spoon-fed. Look, Nyamgul, let me tell you, as we speak today, if you are a state and you generate no activity, you will still share in 80% of the VAT revenue for states. 80%. Whereas in the new way, in the new bill that is being proposed, you will only share in 40% if you are lazy and not doing anything. And what's bad with that? There's nothing bad with that. You enjoy what you generate, but the generation data is the key thing. We must ensure that states are giving their fair share of consumption activity so that no state is cheated.
Okay. We have a story, not necessarily Nigerian, but neighboring Ghana. The former president has won election again. It just crossed my mind that at the turn of events, recently we heard that there are so many posters of a former president of Nigeria flooding the north, but that's a case for another day. But John Mahama has won election to go back to office in Ghana, and everybody's congratulating him. On all the papers, it carries that. But an interesting issue here is still on the Guardian newspaper, where the INEC chairman says Ghana's electoral process was inspired by Nigeria. In Ghana, the electoral process was so seamless, and even before the announcement of the results, which are being expected on Tuesday, the incumbent vice president, who is contesting under the banner of the leading or the ruling party, has conceded defeat and congratulated John Mahama. Now INEC is saying it's inspired by Nigeria. I don't know how you can reconcile that. I don't know whether you agree with that statement or not.
Okay, so what has happened in Ghana is a big lesson to nations like Nigeria, that electoral outcomes reflect the mood of the people. In Ghana, the people are not happy with the incumbent government. And they went to the polls and they kicked out the sitting vice president who wanted to continue in office. That is to show you that that electoral process is credible. It has credibility. Whereas in Nigeria, electoral outcomes does not reflect the mood of the people. Because I can assure you, Nyamgul, look at how we are suffering in Nigeria now. If you conduct another election in Nigeria now, the incumbent government will probably sweep the electoral polls, which shows as if Nigerians are fools. How can you be suffering? How can you be angry with the government? How would you like a government? But when you now are given a ballot paper, you go and vote that government. So electoral outcomes in Nigeria are totally at variance with the mood of the people. And it only shows you that our electoral process has a long way to go. And look, if we're a democracy, we must ensure that the pillars of democracy are operating in Nigeria, one of which is the sanctity of the electoral process. Any nation where you can rig election and seize power, state capture, is not going to work, because the people, those who are in power know that they don't need the people. Anytime they want to win an election, they use muscle power and win the election, And then, of course, that the incumbent vice president has considered is a testament to the fact that the process must be credible. You see, when you conduct an election where it is fair, transparent, and credible, even those who lose know that they have lost fair and square. So the tendency for them to concede is always there. Whereas, if the man feels that he has been cheated out of the process, it's very difficult for him to concede. And that is what is happening in Nigeria. Nigeria needs to take lessons from Ghana. So that if we say we're a democracy, let us allow our democracy to play out. Let us allow the will of the people to prevail, instead of the current shenanigans that are playing out with our elections.
Okay, let's just take this one quickly now before we leave the Guardian newspaper. Minister operators FCCPC bicker over airfare pricing regulatory rights.
Yeah, okay, so I read the statement from the Minister for Aviation, Festus Keyamo, and I think he has a point, because aviation has a regulator, which is the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. So even as the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Council, the FCCPC, is doing its statutory work, they need to do that in conjunction with the regulator in that sector. So I think the two federal agencies need to work together. There needs to be better harmony. Both of them, I mean, I can see what the FCCPC is trying to do is for the good of travelers, air travelers in Nigeria, to ensure that there's fair pricing and there is no collusion by the airlines to overcharge Nigerians. But that has to follow due process.
Okay. Now, let's move over to the Punch newspaper. Lakurawa, Nigeria neighbors begin offensive against new terror group. Defense headquarters vows to block security gaps as Nigeria, Chad, Niger hold joint military operations. That's the leading headline on the Punch newspaper. Now, it's like the shift is from Boko Haram to Lakurawa now, and well, this is what is happening. The joint security outfit is holding a series of operations to make sure that they oust these people. Now we're not talking more about Boko Haram, but we're talking about Lakurawa.
Well, it is unfortunate that we have a security architecture in Nigeria that isn't up to its duties and responsibilities. There is no way you can have a security architecture with a chief of defense staff and the 3 service chiefs. Then you have a national security advisor, a defense intelligence agency, military intelligence agency, the DSS, the police, the civil defense. All of this architecture in Nigeria, and yet a ragtag group of bandits can come and seize territory in Nigeria, and we are unable to go and flush them out. Who does that? Just imagine that elsewhere, even in Ghana, where we're talking about, there's some bandits now come into Ghanaian territory, and they seize territory, and they are sitting there, and the Ghanaian high command of the military and police are just watching them and making press conferences. Does that make sense? You know, since this government came into power, has this government returned farmers that are now in RDP camps? Have one farming community, bandits, been cleared in that place and the farmers return to their community? Answer is no. Then how do we produce food? Is that not the cause of the food inflation? You know, if you want to solve inflation, it's not by hiking interest rate, hiking exchange rate and all of that. You really need to go to the basics. It's a shame that we're in Nigeria with all this high command in the military and the police, and bandits will seize territory in Nigeria, calling them Boko Haram or Lakurawa, and we have not gone to barricade that place and flush them out. And we are making press conferences. It's a shame indeed. And the military and the police and the other security agencies just need to stand up to their responsibilities and duties.
Well, at least elsewhere, things are happening. Syrian rebels oust Assad and 60-year family rule. We're seeing this. In Ghana, the opposition won. South Africa, opposition won. In so many other places, opposition are winning elections. And then in Syria now, their leader has been ousted. He has run away from the country, and rebels have taken over, as it were. And they're looking to forming a transition government or a temporary government that will be at the helm of affairs until they settle down. things are happening elsewhere. What do you feel about the Syrian rebellion that has ousted Assad, who has been in power? His family has been in power for over 60 years.
Yes, it's a very interesting development happening in Syria, and I think it's for the good of Syria, because Assad has been there for a long time. He has presided over a brutal regime. In the past, efforts have been made to remove him, but now that they have succeeded, let it be a new dawn for Syria. Let the rebuilding of Syria now begin. I hope they will be able to put their act together and form a new government that can deliver for the people of Syria. Governance should be about the people. It should not be about strong individuals who seize the space and they just carry on as if they are emperors, and they have nothing for the citizens. The citizens have nothing, they get nothing, and the suffering and everything that just comes with that. So it's a new dawn for Syria. Hope they will get their act together.
Okay. All right. We move to the Business NG. Business NG leads with Nigerians brace for expensive Christmas as food prices surge. That's the leading headline on Business NG.
He said Nigerians what? I didn't hear the last sentence.
They brace for expensive Christmas as food prices surge.
Yes, it's going to be a very expensive Christmas for Nigerians, because since this government came into power, every policy that they have implemented is inflationary. Electricity tariff will increase prices. Fuel cost will increase prices. Hike in interest rate will increase prices. Exchange rate will increase prices. There's absolutely no way that you run economic policies where each and every one of them has capacity to increase prices, that people are not going to have an expensive Christmas. Meanwhile, on the other side is the supply side. This government hasn't done anything on the supply side. Electricity is still 3,000 megawatts. The food is not there because farmers are still in IDP camp. They have not returned farmers to one farming community. We are not doing a lot of production of petroleum products, as our refineries are still down. So that's why the petroleum products are still expensive. So government hasn't taken any major steps that we can see, verifiable steps to say we are also dealing with the supply side of things. Because the more they supply, the lower the prices. And there is no supply. Why prices are going up? So it's going to be a very difficult Christmas for Nigerians. And for me, I think Nigerians need to take the pressure off themselves. When God wakes us up on Christmas Day, go to your place of worship, thank God for letting you celebrate that Christmas, come back and cook your normal food and eat at home and forget about Christmas food, dresses and things like that. Otherwise, it's very hard.
Good advice. I think everybody should take that. 4 Nigerian states attract foreign investment in 2024, while 32 states record zero inflows. That's the Business NG now. Top left corner, that's the headline. 4 Nigerian states, 4, attract foreign investment in 2024, while 32 states record zero inflows. Goes back to what we were talking about, sharing formula, VATs and all that. And this is here where we are. Only 4 states out of 36 states were able to attract foreign investment.
You cannot attract foreign investment if you don't create the enabling environment. And our governments at all levels have to understand this basic fact. It is the enabling environment you create that is going to bring the investment. As we speak today, do you know that hundreds of Nigerians are on flights to Rwanda? They are on flights going to Rwanda. They are going to Rwanda to go and spend our dollars there. Because Rwanda has created the enabling environment. Nigerian officials are leaving Nigeria to go to Rwanda and hold a meeting. That is what you do. When you create an enabling environment, you see the investment. So how can you be in a country where there is no rule of law, infrastructure is decayed, and everything is not happening right, yet you are expecting that there will be investors coming to you? I mean, do you want investors to come and operate with 3,000 megawatts of electricity? Or do you want them to come and be rubbing shoulders with Lukarawa and Boko Haram? Which infrastructure are they going to use? As I'm speaking to you today now, from the federal capital city of Nigeria, Abuja, I can only catch a train to one state capital, Kaduna. There is no train to the 35 state capitals in Nigeria from Abuja. For a 21st century country that is said, I want to attract investment, how is that possible? Do you understand? You know, we have all the energy sources, yet we are flaring gas, no electricity. You know, look, we need to do the hard work. We need to do the hard work to attract foreign investors. Attracting foreign investors is not about carrying a jet and wearing expensive suits and traveling all around the world. The Rwandan people are not doing that. The people in Dubai are not carrying jet to fly around the world. They sat back, they set up their nations ready for investment, and investors are flooding there.
I wish that time will come for Nigeria. Let's talk about this. Dollar sellers struggle to find buyers as Naira hits 1,535 Naira to a dollar. It's also on the business NG. I don't know if that figure is true, that the Naira is exchanging for 1,535 Naira to a dollar as we speak. But this is the situation now. Nobody wants the dollar anymore.
It's very hard to say nobody wants the dollar anymore. Nyamgul, so I think, you know, this, to me, this is a blip. It's because the central bank launched an electronic exchange rate system, and that has caused the blip. But for the value of the Naira to change in a sustainable way, the fundamentals must change. You see, the price of a currency is dependent on the demand and supply of that currency. So for the Naira to gain strength, we need to demand less of dollars and have more supply of dollars in the market. If you ask ourselves, since this government came into power last year, what have they done specifically that will reduce the demand for dollars? And what have they done specifically that will increase the supply of dollars in the market? Our children who are in school abroad, they are still there. People are still traveling out for medical. If today Nigerians want to travel, they will have to fly a foreign airline. Will they pay them dollars? Since we don't have steel plants, anything machinery, anything that has to do with iron and steel, whether it is motor vehicles, it's military hardware, it's computers, it's building materials, and all of that, there is none being produced in Nigeria now. We have to import them. We're importing pharmaceuticals, importing books, importing technology, importing every sort of thing. So tell me, how will Nigeria not need the dollar again? Are we not going to drive cars? Won't the military buy ammo tank gun? Won't the Air Force buy jets? You know, and all of that. Won't the Navy buy naval ships and things like that? Look, Nyamgul, until we change the fundamentals, this thing is just a blip. It's not going to be sustainable.
So it's just propaganda to say that Nigerians do not need the dollar anymore. They're running away from it. That's what it is.
Where are we going to get the drugs? Where are we going to get the drugs? You know, where are we even going to get petroleum products? Nigeria is importing gas. Since our gas, local gas, this thing is not enough. Where are we going to? Where are the upstream oil companies get their rigs? Are we doing any rigs in Nigeria? Are we doing any aircrafts? What are we doing? What exactly are we doing? Do you know that this current government is buying food abroad? This current government is importing food abroad. We're not even producing food. So are we not going to eat again? Since the food we're producing locally is not enough. So you can see that the fundamentals have not changed. And so the Naira can never be strong. It can never. Until we change the fundamentals.
All right. We're getting there. Would like to thank you, Mr. Agule, for coming on the program this morning. As usual, it was a pleasure having you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, and have a nice day to all of us.
You too. Okay, we've been talking with a public affairs commentator, Nick Agule. We were looking at some headlines on the national dailies. We'll take a break now, and when we return, activists plan protests in multiple cities over Dele Farotimi's detention. Stay with us.